Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Hello everybody and welcome once again to Incredible Adventures in Marketing. My name is Liam Carter and as always I'm joined here with Phil Bretherton. Phil, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
And a big wave over to Andy on the mixing desk over there from Ozcast. Thanks very much once again. This week we are talking about SEM. Is that right, Phil?
Amongst other things,
okay.
As always.
What do we got for this week?
There's a few things that I wanted to talk about which have been frustrating me lately.
Okay. Mostly marketing related things, yes?
Yes, mostly. Might be a few other things in there. And also wanted to talk about the elephant in the room, which is WordPress.
Okay, very good. Well, where do we start?
Well, we could talk about SEM, because that's what you wanted to talk about.
And what does SEM stand for again?
It stands for Search Engine Marketing.
Very good, very good. And one of those many acronyms people throw around flippantly these days.
If you're in marketing, you have to have acronyms, that's for sure. Yeah, and if you don't know them, you're stupid.
That's right.
That's the way it is. That's just the way things are, aren't they? And people often confuse SEM with SEO.
And what's the difference?
Well, SEO is all to do with your website itself, the meta tags that you use, the description, the title, the tags for images, all that kind of stuff. In fact, it's all even things like the size of your image, whether or not your JavaScript is compressed or not. There's just lots of little tiny things. You can run your websites through all kind of checkers these days, and often the sole purpose of the checker is to convince you that you need to upgrade to Pro. That's pretty much,
Fair enough.
And so there'll be all kinds of things that'll tell you that's wrong with your website, but mostly your website is probably fine. These days, if you've got a WordPress website, Squarespace, any kind of website really, these days, they're pretty good as regards to SEO. I mean, you can compress your images more, and you can minify your JavaScript, and there's always things you can be doing that really,
and as time goes by there'll be new things you can do as well, I guess.
There's the semantic web is coming, which is what basically adding semantic values and tags to everything, so everything is defined, everything has a key and a value, and that's coming. That's going to be the third wave.
Now, before everybody gets too scared, no, you don't need to be a web developer to understand this episode. We are going to kind of just
we'll tone it down a bit.
Tone it down just a touch, but just so you know, these things are all things that are considerations for your web developers when they're building websites. Yeah,
for the most part, most developers these days know enough about SEO for your website to be, good enough, I'd say. There'll be people that'll argue with that, but for the most part, I think SEO is pretty much job done, really, with regards to tags and keywords and all that kind of stuff. There's things you can do yourself, such as giving images more friendly names, and that'd be putting your image tags. And there's things like putting keywords in your titles, and these are all things you can do yourself. With any content management system, you can do these things yourself. And that's just really just considering what people would type into a search engine, and then making sure that you put those into your pages and your blogs and things like that. So there's that side of SEO which you can always tackle and you can always improve and work on. There's things like adding lists to a page, like an itemized list of things to a page. That's a good way of adding SEO value to your website. But for the most part, the actual tags and the things what a developer delivers, most of the time the SEO is pretty good as is, and you can improve it slightly by changing title tags and all image tags and all that kind of stuff. But SEM was what we were going to talk about.
Sure.
And that's completely different.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, people do confuse the two. So SEM is search engine marketing. And one of those is like Google Ads, Google advertising.
AdWords, everybody.
Yeah. So that's basically putting your own advert into AdWords, so that when somebody types in to Google your keywords, it appears at the top. and now it appears at the bottom as well. So
there you go. And it's kind of, and so let's just delve into AdWords a little bit, because it is the biggest one. I mean, you can't do a lot these days without Google being involved.
That's right.
So it's essentially you're finding a keyword, some kind of phrase or word that could be beneficial for a search result for that particular business that you're working for, and you bid on the search terms, and depending on where you come out in this bidding process, it will largely determine where you end up in the search results. Is that about?
It is. I mean, that's pretty much it, really. Especially with Google Ads, people don't realize often. It's been like, I think I spoke about this about Facebook ads, but with Google Ads, you are also bidding on various keywords, and the longer the keyword or key phrase, the more niche it is, and probably will mean that the smaller the bid will have to be. But the more broad the keyword. So if it's just one keyword, for instance, like cars,
lots of people are going to be searching that, and
there's going to be lots
all
of
over the world.
And there's and you have to bid. You have to spend more. So, for instance, for me, if I want to bid on just like Adelaide Web Designer, that's like $25 per click.
Right, so every time somebody punches that in and there's an ad there, they see.
They'll see if I'm prepared to bid $25 per click, they'll see my little ad, which will have a title, a link to my website or to my web page, and a little short description. And if somebody clicks on that, that will cost me $25. And the worry is that your competitors type in Adelaide Web Designer and just sit there all day.
Spend your money.
Sit there all day just clicking on your ad.
And you really better make sure with a cost that high per click that whatever they are going through to when they do click that is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, super relevant, really. So again, that's another reason why you want to be thinking about longer keywords, because the person who's typing them in is typing in, they're trying to drill down to something. They're looking for something that's really relevant. So the idea is if your listing comes up and they click on it, well then the web page which is linked to that really has to be like, this is exactly what you're looking for. Here it is. This is what we've got. And then if you do something like that, you might convert that click, but the numbers are quite poor. They do say that it's something like 1 in 100 people who click will convert.
That's right. So you need to make sure that you either get the high volume or you get really good quality leads, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can up it to, like 2% of people, 3% is pretty good. If you can get 4 out of every 100 clicking on something, actually purchasing or making an inquiry, that's pretty good. They say that like airlines have the highest percentage at 7%, but there's not much that goes above that. You can do things. You can give people different options. So if they do come to your website and they're not interested, well, then just as they're about to leave or after a short time, you can just throw up a little subscriber box and say something along the lines of, "So you're not interested now, but get this free thing, and we'll nag you for months and months later until you unsubscribe."
And we've talked a little bit about email lists in previous episodes. You can check that out in the iTunes
channel
app or wherever you grab your podcast from.
But yeah, that's generally what people do, is they'll throw something up there for free or under a certain value. I think it's under, it was Neil Patel that said it was under $50 or something like that. If you throw something up there for under that, then people... So if you're selling something for $800, but you want somebody to try it first, like a sample it first, you can sell something for under $50 and it's more likely that they'll purchase that. And then, of course, they're onto your email list, and then you can continue with email marketing, which is, basically every form of digital marketing pretty much needs to end in email marketing, really. I mean, if you've got 10,000 people, the cost of sending an email message to 10,000 people isn't that much more than 5,000 people. But unlike Facebook, for instance, if you want to target more people, if you want your ad to have more impressions, well, then it does really scale up a lot, depending on who, and we're talking about not random impressions, but people who have liked your own page. Let's say you've got 10,000 likes. If you want to actually reach all of them, the cost is a lot higher than if you just want to reach half of them. I know if you just want to reach 10% of them. Whereas with email marketing, if you want to reach everybody that's subscribed, it's not much different to, 5,000, 10,000, even 100,000 really. I mean, you just pay a set amount with MailChimp based upon the number of subscriptions, and then you can continue. You can send out as many emails as you want, which is great. Which is why everything should lead to email marketing.
All roads lead to email marketing.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, AdWords for the average punter can look a little bit confusing and a little bit scary for some people.
Yeah.
But there are easier ways to give your website a little bit of a boost if you're not that technically savvy. I mean, I guess you can do things like posting your domain on Facebook and boosting that post.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. You got any other
that's another way.
ideas?
You can do that with LinkedIn as well. I mean, the good thing about LinkedIn is that you can join groups which have hundreds of thousands of people, and you can create a post which all of those, if those people log on, they can read. It's there. It's there for all of those hundreds of thousands of people to see. With Facebook, your groups are limited to a certain size. I'm not sure what it is. It's like 1,000 or something that. It's quite small.
Okay.
But with LinkedIn, you can have groups which have got millions of people, and you can post. So if you're doing B2B marketing, it's great because you can post something on LinkedIn and hope for the best. And the problem with that is a lot of people post boring things.
That has always been my issue with LinkedIn. I think it's a good platform, but man, is it boring sometimes.
Well, I mean, Facebook seems boring these days as well.
That's true.
It's there's just so much noise. It's filled with marketers who are just posting the same stories, basically, the same kind of thing. And there'll be things like, there are always lists. They always list like 5 reasons you should be doing this, or 7 ways this isn't working for you, or there's always lists, and it's
actually, just on a hilarious note, one of the other podcasts in the Ozcast network, he's a motivational guy, and he's what was his line? I'll give you the 10 steps to success. The first step is call me. The other 9 are leave it to me, or something like that.
That's a good
Check
one.
out the Attitude Consultant if you're interested in that.
Well, I mean, there's so many lists these days. You go on LinkedIn, every article is a list of like 10, even like 10 steps to success and stuff like that. And nobody's clicking like on these things anymore. Nobody's, I see them all, they're plastered all over my feed. And nobody's clicking like. You've got all these expert marketers who are sharing their marketing knowledge. And it's so boring and dull. And there's so much of it. And it's so much noise that it's not going anywhere. We're getting to a point now where it's just become just noise, which you tune out of. Meanwhile, you get celebrities posting things and they get millions of likes and thousands of likes. It's almost as if marketers have forgotten how to be interesting. And LinkedIn is especially like that. I mean, if you join any of the B2B groups, you'll just see just article after article after article, which is pretty much the same thing. It's just all the same stuff. It's really, really boring. And it's only when you do something a bit radical and a bit different and a bit daring and maybe even a bit open, or people who are being open right now and honest. But again,
Some people were way too honest, if you ask me, especially on the internet.
It's also starting a bit of a revolution where everyone's being honest and open now. And it's like, okay, well, it's like TED. Sooner or later, nobody gives a damn,
Yeah.
And so, but originally it was quite, here's someone being open and not, posting some boring list. So when it comes to not being boring, it's like a daily thing, really. You have to be inventive every single day and not just follow the numbers and go by the numbers and post lists or post boring marketing advice, stuff which is obvious, like how to make a better homepage, step 1, write a killer introduction. It's all, there's so much of that content. Yeah. There's just so many pages of it, and marketers are just churning it out all the time. And really, I think the message is quite clear, and that is, in order to be successful in marketing, you just have to just churn out a hell of a lot of content. That's it. It doesn't matter what it is. It's just throw out heaps of it and hope for the best.
All right. So what would be the first few things that any person who has a business that is looking to improve their SEO and their SEM, where would you start, would you say?
Well, you start really with looking at what everybody else is doing who's in your area, I reckon. I mean, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have recommended this as a first step. But certainly now, going back to the boring thing, certainly now, the first thing I'd be doing is looking at what everybody else is doing who's in the same niche. and really just going, okay, I got to do something which is nothing like this. You've almost got to be thinking, non-digital guerrilla marketing techniques, painting your car with advertising or putting advertising where it's not supposed to be, or just being inventive and hoping that somebody will Instagram that, or, and then it'll become a digital thing.
But I guess the trick is that it can't be you that does it. It has to be somebody else, and that's how it gets its own legs, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
On the the Instagram.
Well, Banksy he's popular just through doing guerrilla marketing. That's it. All of his stuff is just guerrilla marketing. So really, just look up what Banksy does and maybe emulate it a little bit.
Be Banksy.
Yeah. So that's the kind of thing you should be thinking. You should be thinking, how can I do something which is really not boring? Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're selling cars or fixing cars or being an accountant, or even if your job is like heaps just on the surface, as far as everybody else is concerned, is boring. You might be an accountant, you might love it, you might love numbers, but on the surface, everybody else thinks it's a really boring job. So you've got to do something which is really inventive. You've got to come at it from a different way. And it's a little bit like that old question, what is it? And you're an accountant, and really that's not what you are. What you are is somebody that frees up somebody else's time, and you gives them the freedom to go and do what they want to do, and spend more time with their children and not worry about the books and things like that. That's what you are. That's what you do. It's the Apple way of thinking. They don't sell iPads, they sell dreams, and they sell imagine creative ways to be creative. They sell that kind of stuff, life-saving things. They don't sell iPads. So it's a little bit like that. You've got to come at it from a different angle. You've got to be really, really creative. You've got to spend a lot of time, I think, now thinking about how you can be inventive rather than just doing it rote, rather than just creating a blog post and just getting it out there and post it. And this is what other marketers will tell you to do. They'll just say, write something that's 1,000 words long, etc. Put it on LinkedIn, put it on Facebook, boost it as much as you can, and just repeat. And hopefully, if you keep doing that content, something will pick up. And I guess that does work for them, because that's their job. They've got nothing better to do other than continually churn out content. But if you run a business, you've got other things to do. So you've got to be clever. You've got to be smart. So if you're going to start off with SEM, my first piece of advice is just come up with something that's just not boring. And then once you've got something that's just not boring, just really plan how you can market that. Can you market it outside of digital? Can you use other techniques? And then once you've really got something which you think is going to be killer and you've put a lot of thought into it, well, then that's when you can put it on Facebook and LinkedIn and Google Plus or whatever, and put it on Twitter. And that's when you can boost it and share it and put it in groups. But, if you do that with just boring content, it's just always just going to just get scrolled past. That's it. It's not going to be interesting. The idea is to create something that's engaging and interesting. And it's just something which I think is really missing right now. It's just all becoming noise upon noise. So that's the first thing is do that. And then, like I said, once you've come up with something, whichever platform you think you can share it on. And that really is SEM marketing, because then you would bring it back to a nice, cool web page, the kind we do, or a landing page, something really interesting. And you would build a subscription and, go with it, roll with it. If you've done something that's really exciting, start planning the next thing that goes on top of that, the next really exciting thing, which you can then send out as a newsletter. But this SEM marketing is not difficult. It's just that there's so much of it. You're going to get lost if you don't do something creative. And really, I think being a marketer now has to switch. The role has to switch from being just a marketer to being someone who's creative and who's got ideas, and who can do something that's different and bolder. So I see a lot of marketers falling by the wayside, people who can't do that, people who've not got the inventiveness and the creativeness, because it's always been just a by the numbers thing. If you knew the tools, you could be a marketer. Well, it's a little bit like painting, isn't it? If you've got the brushes and things like that, you're not an artist unless you can paint.
No. So I use my fingers normally.
Yeah, well, you might come up with something. I don't know.
Actually, just as a bit of a kind of one of the final notes, isn't it a great business platform that Google and Facebook have got? I mean, they kind of create this search engine, and then they charge you to put you up higher on their search engine, which really doesn't cost them anything.
I know.
It's just
It's
the
free money.
best. It's a license to print money, isn't it?
It is.
Really just bribing Google.
I mean, it does cost them servers, though, I have to say, and satellites.
Oh, poor Google, yeah.
I know, it's just, yeah. But because there's so much data, because I think I'm building a social media network myself right now. And and you just don't realize how much data there is until you start to delve into it a little bit deeper. And like, for instance, every time somebody likes something, you can't just simply just up a counter by one and say, now that post has one additional like. You've actually got to log who liked it. And so that could easily just be a new row in a table. And so imagine if something's got 1 million likes. Well, that's 1 million rows in a table.
Plus whoever did it, maybe there's 2 million.
And so it's very, very quickly you can have huge tables. And I was looking at how Facebook do this, because they just use MySQL, which is like, I use that, and most people, and WordPress uses that, and most people who are doing PHP use MySQL. But I was like, I would never have thought that there could have been, well, who knows what the number would be. It'd be trillions upon trillions of rows of people, And I looked up how they did it. How did they do something like that? And it seems that they've just got various databases all over the world. So if we live in Adelaide, so there'll be a database specifically for Adelaide, maybe even specifically for Hectorville, and there'll be a database in Texas, and there'll be so they've just got farms everywhere.
Right.
And that's how they do it. They just basically, it's the simplest way if you think about it, it's the simplest thing to do. Just build more
storage.
Yeah, that's it. And put it just locally. So yeah, that was fascinating. But so yeah, with Google, it does cost them that. I mean, they've even got barges now, where they keep things.
What do you, like on water?
Yeah, yeah.
What do you mean?
They've got like barges which are filled with shipping crates, and the only thing in the shipping crate is servers. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were run so hot that they need to cool them, and if you don't have a barge, there's the water there.
Oh, yeah. Smart.
And I think it's in Germany actually. They're just doing a new thing now, where you can pay to have a server placed in your house. So you pay to have it come to your house, and then the server's so hot that you can just run your hot water off the server. So
wow.
Yeah. So they use the water to cool the server naturally, and then you can just use that heated water and it's a great way.
This is
think
next
about
level
it.
stuff.
Yeah, because you don't ever have to pay for hot water anymore. That's it. You just pay that one time to have that server.
It would really
installed.
not be much fun in the middle of summer here in South Australia, though, I must say.
No.
It would be a world of hurt.
Yeah. I don't think Germany's not as hot as it is South Australia. No. So maybe that's not coming to Australia. That idea. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for giving us a bit of a rundown on SEM there, Phil. And where can people find you if they want to find out a bit more?
Oh, they can just Google Incredible Co. That's it.
Check it out. We'll probably put a few links here and there in the title description for the podcast, and so check that out. And thanks very much for being here once again.
No worries.
This has been Incredible Adventures in Marketing. My name's Liam Carter. Big thanks once again to Andy over on the panel. We'll catch you next time, guys.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.